My name is Jason Snook. I'm a systems engineer for Quorum. Quick background about myself. I've been in IT in various fields from network engineer all the way to IT director for about 15 years or so. Today I want to talk about how backups can not only save your day, but they could be viewed as something beyond insurance. So let's jump right in. So whenever I think about backups, I'm thinking about the history of backups. Back in the day, we had physical servers. We had some storage, either on board or in a SAN if we were lucky enough, and we backed all those files up to tape. Now, tape was great. I'm sure a lot of people still use it. It's super reliable, lasts forever. It's also incredibly slow. It can be very complex to manage. So that was a good first step, but we then migrated over towards backing things up to local disk, maybe some tape for archiving, and then maybe even some off-site cloud storage. Now, at this time, we're talking about physical servers and virtual servers, along with all sorts of different connected data. Now, that connected data could have been some VMDK files for VMs, it could have been a NAS share, an NFS share, or it could have been that traditional physical server. Regardless of it, backups back in the day were dumping to local disk, even up to cloud. Now, one funny story about cloud. I dabbled around with using cloud as an offsite archive for a while. This is actually my last job, where I was an IT director for a research company in Austin, Texas. One of the cool things that came out, AWS came out with Glacier, which is essentially cold storage. Really cool. It took me about, I don't know, a week or so to move my volumes that I wanted to archive to Glacier. Really, you don't pay for much at all. Once you get up and running with it, the scheduling worked great. But there's one time in particular that I actually had to restore files from Glacier. And oh my gosh, hopefully it's improved, but it was slow and incredibly expensive. I'll throw a question out to you guys. Hold on to it maybe for later or send it to me now. How much do you think it cost me, time-wise and money-wise, to move a 1 terabyte volume from Glacier down to my local on-premise colocation? It was a painful process, to say the least. It taught me a lot about what backups should actually do, what they should actually be responsible for. Now, let's move to what I would consider present day. We've got all kinds of things in our IT environment. We're responsible for physical servers, VMs, all that connected data, even instances up in cloud. A lot of people nowadays are dabbling in AWS, Rackspace, Azure. Regardless of what it is, they're running servers, applications, storing data up in the cloud. Now, the backups of today, let's just call it a modern-day backup, or I'll use an industry buzzword here, hyper-converged backup solution. All that means is we have a solution that is the focus is having a local on-premise backup with an off-site component that either could be your off-site or it could be your vendor's off-site. Now, the responsibility or the role of this new backup, it's way more than just storing the ones and zeros of your data. It's actually creating a system where you can restore not only data, but you can instantly restore VMs or applications. You can do that local and off-site. That's what I mean by hyper-converged backup. This is sort of the history. I'm really excited about where we are at today because we've wanted to get here for quite some time. Back in the day, I roll back to that cloud restore that I had with Glacier, which was incredibly painful. It was really good for restoring individual files. That solution was great. But if a server went down, I was looking at the prospect of some serious downtime and some serious headaches. So this whole idea of this modern-day hyper-converged backup solution, fixing all those problems. Instead of just focusing on restoring files, we're now focusing on maintaining uptime. So all of this stuff, it's always been insurance, right? It's always gotten us back online if something failed. It's always restored a file if somebody deleted it or it was corrupt or it was locked or whatever the case is. We've always viewed backups as, I have to have it. I don't like paying for it. I definitely don't like managing it because they're typically a pain in the butt to manage. But they're always looked at as insurance. So I want to view it a little bit differently, okay? So when I think about my last job and the last 15 years or so, I was responsible for all kinds of things, running VMs, maintaining and updating physical servers, doing a little bit of application support, cloud without a doubt, cloud was a big one for me. And then storage, all kinds of different storage mechanisms. And at the center of that, again, you've got this backup is now expected to maintain uptime. So regardless of what fails in your environment, the modern day backup solution, it had better be able to get you back online. If you have a AWS instance that goes down, you had better be able to power it up on your local on-prem backup solution. Same thing for VMs. What if a VMGK file goes corrupt or goes south? Or what if an entire host goes down and it affects multiple VMs? Well, the modern day backup solution is there to get you out of the ditch, get you back up and running. And again, this is kind of that idea behind backups being insurance, and it's great. We all need it. It's the evolution of what we can do with backups has gotten to a point where it's actually more than just insurance. So whenever I think about that, one thing that always kind of kept me up at night were security threats. Okay, so you've got ransomware. Everyone has heard about ransomware. It's all over the news. You also have things like OS and network vulnerabilities, known vulnerabilities that you have patches and fixes to, and zero-day vulnerabilities, which means you don't even know what the problem is until someone either figures it out or someone exploits it and does something bad to your system. You also have the threat of losing your data to a data breach. All of these things, back in the day, backups didn't really help with this. These were things that you had to have a completely separate solution to mitigate. And what I want to talk about today is how do we leverage this modern day backup solution for more than just insurance? How do we actually use it as a tool? Okay, so if I jump into the idea behind the modern day backup solution, it goes by many names. Okay, some people call it BDR, backup and disaster recovery. Some people call it a data protection solution. You can use the term business continuity. And the as a service, the DR as a service is definitely there. So DRAS is definitely something that we call our modern day backup. Regardless of what you call it, it had better, and this is in my opinion, okay, it had better provide local recovery, the ability to restore files immediately, but it had better go beyond that, the ability to restore failed servers. Again, I go back to my VM failure. If I have one VM that goes down, my backup solution now has the ability to power on a clone of that VM. If all of my VMs go down because the SAN goes down, power them up all in that local system. This whole idea is maintaining application uptime by creating an exact replica of your production environment and holding it on a completely separate recovery mechanism or backup solution. Okay, we do that local and we do that remote. This is what today's backups can do. Now, on the remote side, it acts as a place for off-site copy. Okay, what I mean by that is you're holding it's another level of insurance. It's saying if you have some catastrophic failure at your local data center, your local co-location, even up in your cloud resources, your remote system, your remote backup system, can hold a secondary copy. You should also be able to deploy archive. A lot of times in the past, I used ArcServe, Symantec Backup Exec. Even I rolled over to Veeam for a while, and all of those guys were really good at, giving me 14, maybe 20 days of retention. But if I had to add archiving, it was kind of a pain. I had to find a whole different solution for it. And today's backup solutions, you can do archiving embedded. It should be part of the overall solution. So if you need to go beyond that, say 20, 30, or even 40 days of local data retention, plug in an archive component and go out to years if you wanted to. The other aspect of remote recovery is site recovery. Let's say your main site goes down for whatever reason. I mean, disasters can come in many, many different flavors. They can come because hardware failure. Let's say a motherboard goes out, drive failures, whatever the case may be. Maybe it's a power failure. Maybe it's a power grid failure. Maybe it's a storm. Maybe it's a bad ex-employee that still has keys to the network and took your systems offline. Whatever the case is, the offsite is there to bring your entire site back up and running. Okay? So again, we're taking this premise of let's not just back up data, let's make an entire clone of your data, your production data center, and hold it let's hold it at the local site and hold another copy at the remote site. Okay? Well, how do we use it for more than just backups? Well, we use it as a test and migration tool. Okay? The idea here is that, hey, if I've got a completely separate system running locally and running remote, why don't I use that to my advantage to act as my entire dev environment? Imagine the ease of use. If you have, let's say you've got 20 servers in your environment. Well, back in the day, if I want a dev server, I'd spin up a couple dev Windows servers, maybe a couple dev Linux servers. I'd try and get them up to the same patch level. I'd basically mimic the way that my production system is designed. Okay, and that's kind of a flawed approach now, because now we have the ability to spin up an exact clone of your production environment. You can do that on your backup solution. You can test things like patches, changes, database upgrades, OS upgrades, Exchange server changes. Whatever you want to test, you can do it with today's backup solution. Specifically, whenever we're talking about security, there are some things that you can do to your everyday OSs that you can make changes to them to make them a little bit more secure. These are common practices we'll talk about here in just a second. You can also use the tool as a way to test common threats, okay? This is the idea that you can test OS and network penetration testing, both internal and external, because again, you have a clone of all of your servers sitting on your backup solution. You can use it as a full dev network. So if you want to deploy the latest and greatest version of Exchange, or if you have an idea for a new web app and you want to run a bunch of Linux servers on it, you can by all means use it as a dev tool. Okay, and again, you are doing all of this testing against exact clones. Now, here's the good thing. Once you've made changes to your systems, you can roll those changes out to production. The modern day backup solution has a way to go from your backup solution back to production. Okay, so that's deploying whenever you're done with your testing mechanism. So let's talk about a couple different ways. Security best practices, a couple common practices that we do to change the standard OS to make it a little bit more secure. Okay, you can do this again on your backup solution. You can deploy least privilege. You can deploy mandatory access control. You can modify port control, and you can do complete audits. Whichever OS you're looking at, do a quick query to find out how do you harden a specific operating system, whether it's Windows, whether it's a version of Linux. There are certain things that you're going to want to do to lock that stuff down. So what I'm saying here is use your backup solution to test those steps. And then on the network penetration side, okay, there are known vulnerabilities and exploits out there that everyone knows about, and maybe you haven't correctly patched your systems, or maybe you haven't correctly done an audit on what people can see both internally and externally. And with your backup solution, your modern day backup solution, you can use it as your testing endpoint. Okay, you can deploy testing tools that will allow you to do targeted testing. You can see what is externally visible. You can do a very in-depth internal and external scanning. You can even use exploitation tools against the copy of your network. Okay, so this is how you use or you turn your BDR into a completely different solution, not just insurance, but a way to proactively secure your environment. And you can do this because you can use it as a complete sandbox. You have clones. You have the ability to segment your LAN. That means you may as well do all of this testing without impacting production at all. If you've got 20 servers in your environment and you want to spin all 20 of them up on your backup solution, do it and just put them on a different VLAN. Now, once you're done testing, let's say you really liked the changes that you made. Well, you can either A, turn off the clones in your backup solution and then do those same changes out in the field, or you can roll those changes or migrate those changes that you did back to production while you're online. This is a good way to use your backup solution. It's not only a testing tool, but a migration tool. Now, any backup solution that allows you to test should also do what we call continuous protection. This just means that, let's say you're in the middle of a 5-day dev test or 5-day penetration test. Well, you still want to back up your servers. You still want to have that level of threat mitigation still sitting at your on-premise and your off-site cloud. So you want to make sure that your backup solution is still going to back things up on the same schedule, even though you're doing those testing. Okay, that is in a nutshell, that is how you can use your backup solution to go way beyond just simple insurance. Now, let's talk about one thing that seems like everyone wants to talk about. It's all over in the news. It's ransomware. Okay, now ransomware is one of the things. Even Pokemon Go is affected by it. There's a ransomware called Pokemon Go out there that just was released a couple weeks or so ago. Kind of an interesting threat. The same thing though. It's out there to lock particular system files, lock personal files, and it's a pain. And there are all kinds of ways that you can be tricked into running or having ransomware into your environment. Now, one way that we go, a typical route that we go to make sure that these security threats don't get in-house is we build layers of defense around our soft inner core. Okay, so starting from the inside, we have our data in our systems. Those are the things that we need to protect. Now, if we look at the very outside, we have physical security controls like door locks, access control, things like that. We have perimeter security, digital security, like firewalls, IPS, things like that. These are really good at making sure that bad stuff doesn't get in. Same for application and host levels, okay? These are either host firewalls or AV or host IPS. These are ways to lock down and look at those specific systems and make sure that they don't become compromised. And then what's very, very close to that inner core is your recovery mechanism, your ability to recover from an outage. Now, with the right backup and recovery solution, you can very easily get back online if ransomware gets inside. Unplug or disconnect that infected server or that infected PC, power on a clone of your server that is not infected, and then users are back online. And then you troubleshoot, you diagnose, you clean the system on your own timeline. So back in the day with ransomware, whenever it got inside, you were faced with A, oh my gosh, what's going on? Do I have to pay? And then B is, how long is it going to take me to get these systems accessible again? You know, ransomware started out as a way for people to just lock files, but now it's locking entire VMs. It's unlocking MDB files. It's locking actual applications. It's preventing applications from running. So it's gone way beyond from a annoyance of, hey, I just need to restore some files for my backup to get back online, to, hey, it's actually taken down entire VMs, entire applications. So with the right local and remote BDR solution, you don't have to ever worry about paying. You don't even have to worry about downtime. You just power on a clone and continue your day. Okay, so that's what I have to say about ransomware. So what should your next BDR look like? Well, if I start on the left-hand side, of course it's got to do backup. Okay, it's got to back up both physical and virtual machines. It's got to back up all my data. It's got to give me this way of doing a file level restore. All backup solutions should do that. Now, your modern day backup is that it's going to take it a step further. It's going to create or allow you to do instant recovery locally. Okay, the ability to, whatever the outage, whether it's ransomware has locked a file, locked a VM, locked a SQL database, or if you just have some random outage, your BDR solution should be able to maintain uptime by spinning up a clone of any one or all of your servers. It should have a component for deduplication. You don't want to store a bunch of duplicate data. You should have a way of replicating to an offsite. There's nothing better as far as if you want to sleep at night to know that you have not only data, but VMs living somewhere offsite if you have that site-wide outage. Here's what I'm talking about today. It should give you a mechanism to test. Test changes to your OSs. Do penetration testing. Test updates, changes, database migration. Use it way more than just insurance. Your BDR should monitor. It should tell you when you have a problem. And it should tell you, or you should have the ability to quickly and easily use it as an archiving tool. Gone are the days of having a backup solution and an archive solution. Now, you should demand that your backup solution also be your archiving if you need it for whatever systems you want to archive. And then finally, the solution should be able to go back to production. This means using it as a migration tool. Let's say a couple different scenarios. Let's say you're standing up a new hardware, or you're going to go to a new hypervisor. Well, instead of migrating from one hypervisor to another, why not run on your BDR while you stand up that new hardware? And when you're happy with the changes, just roll back from that BDR to that new hypervisor, new physical server, new SAN, whatever the case may be. Use your BDR for a migration tool. So who does all this? This is where Quorum comes in. Okay, so Quorum's been around since 2008. We've been protecting IT departments against outages, against downtime since 2008 with a tool that we call OnQ. Okay, OnQ is designed specifically to recover data, servers, and applications in minutes. We don't just focus on recovering files. Our focus is maintaining uptime by powering on clones both locally and remote. So what do we protect? We protect Windows and Linux OSs running on physical and virtual machines. We protect all connected data. What does that mean? All connected data means as long as if your server sees it, we are going to back it up. Okay? And we're going to back it up, and our focus is recovering in minutes. File level restore? Yes, we absolutely do that. Server recovery? Yes, we recover one or all or an entire site. Depends on what your outage is. We simply put, we maintain uptime. Okay, we don't just focus on restoring files. We've created a solution that is extremely reliable, very, very easy to use. I want to talk about easy to use here just for a second. I'll show you guys the dashboard in just a second. But there's one of our competitors has a university all about learning how to use their product. I think that's foolish. With us, you can literally be a professional at it in about 4 hours. You can get the dashboard in front of you. We'll hold your hand to show you how to use the entire solution. And at the end of it, that's all you need to know. It's a very, very easy solution to protect your entire environment. So what does it look like? What does it look like to deploy our solution? Well, if we start out with your environment, again, it could be a mix. We are IT environment agnostic. It doesn't matter what you have. If you have physical servers, we'll protect it. If you have VMs running on Hyper-V and some on VMware and some on Xen, we're still going to protect them. Okay? Any SAN connected data, we're going to protect them. And the way that we do that is we do it with OnQ. Now, OnQ can be distributed as a physical appliance, or you can run it yourself. We even have a virtual appliance you can run on your own hardware. Now, the backup type, it's application consistent. This is a big one. Okay? Application consistent means when we take backups, the recovery node or the clone will be updated, and it will look and act just like your physical server or VM that we backed up. When you power it on, it will do exactly as what it was doing when we were doing the backup. That means there's nothing you have to do. After pressing the go button on our solution, the VM will be running on our appliance or our virtual appliance, and there is nothing you have to do after that fact. Okay? Our backups are incremental forever. This just means that on day one, you're going to do a full backup. Every day after that are incrementals. Gone are the days of complex job scheduling. Just tell us how often you want to back it up, and it's done. It's taken care of. We do block-level deduplication. This just ensures that we have fast backups, and we're efficiently storing data. We also encrypt everything that's in motion. We can even encrypt things that are at rest if you want to, but everything that is in motion, both local and once you introduce the offsite replication, that's also encrypted. Now, talking about offsite replication, you have a couple different options for them. You can either roll out a matching physical or virtual appliance at your own secondary site, and now you've got a copy of all of your data, all of your VMs, all of your physical servers sitting at your secondary site. You can use this as your testing, a DR test. You can spin these clones up at any time to do any sort of testing you want, either locally or remote. Or for the offsite replication, you can go with Quorum's DRAS solution. DRAS, Disaster Recovery as a Solution. It's our cloud-based solution. Now, one thing to note about Quorum's cloud that's different from others, it's our own cloud. We don't resell AWS. We don't resell anyone else's architecture. We actually have data centers that we built ourselves that will hold your data. It's our employees that manage the entire solution, from the DR seeding to the DR testing to the everyday DRAS experience. Okay, that offsite replication is going to come with global deduplication. All that means is that, let's say, for example, you've got 20 Windows servers and Patch Tuesday rolls along, and you deploy those 20 patches to all those servers. We're only going to move that patch one time. That way we can have efficient offsite replication. That's what global dedup does. Flexible replication allows you to replicate on your terms. Okay, you can either do a live replication. Let's say you back up your SQL server every 2 hours, and you want to replicate it every 2 hours. Well, with us, you can do that. And then other servers that maybe back up once a day, you want to hold those backups and replicate them at night, you can do that as well. So it's very, very flexible and efficient replication. All transfers are encrypted. And even in the DRAS side, we can make sure that all of the data at rest is encrypted as well at the DRAS. Or if you need it, you can even deploy a solution where the drives are encrypted at your own DR. Now, how do you get access to Quorum's DRAS cloud? Well, you can do it through VPN. So here's a scenario. Your main site goes down. You need to get users back up and running using your local Exchange server, using your Exchange server, your main application server, and some files. The way that you do that if your site goes down is you go to the Quorum's cloud, you push one button, all of your servers power up. You tell your users to double-click a pre-configured VPN client. They are now going to have access to those servers and applications and data up in Quorum's cloud. Same thing for your DR. If you decide to host it yourself, you'll have one button that will power up every single one of your VMs. You can even do it in a specific order. So you can power up domain controllers before file and print servers, before application servers, database servers. You decide how things power up, but you can do that with a single click with our solution. So if a server goes down locally, what you're going to do is go to Quorum's dashboard. You're just going to press a button. The button is going to power on a clone, a matching clone, living on that appliance or virtual appliance. That is as easy as our solution is. And I want to show you guys that real quick. So let's go ahead and crash the server and see what it looks like. Now, here's my sample environment. Tried to make it as easy as possible. We've got 3 servers. We've got some VMs. We've got some VMs running on VMware and Hyper-V. Now, OnQ is going to protect all of those. It doesn't matter. We're going to back up everything using BSS. You can either do agent or agentless, completely up to you. And then we're going to monitor your servers for availability. We're just going to let you know if there's any sort of an outage. So let's say jumping to our dashboard. This is where I tried to make the point that our solution is easy to use. First off, you manage it using an IP-based dashboard. You don't have to install any management software. You just go to the IP address and manage it. This dashboard is going to show you the entire health of your solution. Are servers being backed up? Are the clones being updated? Is there an outage? The main page is very, very helpful in showing you what you need to address, what you need to do for that day. Ease of use. Again, we don't have any complicated university to run our application. We literally have a training process that we put all of our customers through, and once they're turned loose into the wild with their own dashboard, it's very, very easy for them to use. So what happens if one of these servers fail? Let's say one of my physical servers fail. Well, OnQ is going to see that it fails, and we're going to send you an email or text notification saying, hey, you need to figure out what's going on. You have a server outage. You now have the option to either troubleshoot that server and stop what you're doing and maybe not know how long it's going to take to diagnose that server, or you can just power it up on the Quorum appliance. OnQ is going to give you the ability to click a button, power on a clone of that physical server, and then you get to troubleshoot on your own timeline. Okay? How long is RTO? Well, RTO is as long as it takes to power up the server. Typically, it's less than 5 minutes. Now, recovery is very easy. Anyone can do this. Anyone can go to the IP address, look for the little red button, and click it, and then go about their day. This means you don't have to be tied to the office if you have an outage. If you're out to lunch, you can pull up your tablet or your iPhone, go to our dashboard, power on a clone of the failed server. If you're out on vacation, same thing. Keep users happy by clicking that one red button and powering up a clone on our appliance. So when that server goes down, here's what you're going to see. You're going to see the green light turn the red light. Pretty simple. There's really nothing else you have to do. Now that represents a server that we have backed up and created a clone for. We've done a full self-test of that clone to assure that it will power on. This is why I say that our solution is reliable. Okay, we back up all of your data, we create a clone of it, and then we test it. We test not only the data that we collected, but we test the clone that you may or may not need to power up at some point. So if that server fails, and you go to our dashboard, you click on that red button, you know it's going to power on because we've already done a full self-test of it. And this is where you can't get any easier. You're going to unlock the page right down here, click that red button, and in about 5 minutes, that server now is going to take the place of production. it will have the same IP address, the same MAC address. It's going to look and act exactly as it did out in production. Okay? This is something that you can do anywhere that you can access this IP address. If you're out of the office and you need to phone in this workflow, you phone into someone and say, hey, go to this IP address, log in, click the red button. Everyone is back up and running in a couple minutes. That's why failover is easy. Now, we see now that the clone is running on the appliance. And now here's the nice thing. You can let the clone run for as long as you want. We're still going to back it up. Okay, if this particular server is down for a couple weeks before you can fix it, you're still backing it up on your routine basis. So if this particular server is being backed up every 2 hours, it's still being backed up even though it's running on our appliance. That's failover to us. Okay, that's how we recover your systems. Of course, you can recover individual files. It's very, very easy to do. But more importantly, if you have an outage and you have Quorum on site and Quorum out at your offsite, you're completely covered for bringing systems back online. Let me turn it back to that ransomware discussion. If your file server is compromised and it's starting to lock all kinds of files, and you get people complaining about, hey, I can't get to the share, I can't open these files because they're encrypted, turn that file server off, go back to a known good state, power it on the Quorum appliance, and then fix the production file server on your timeline. Clean it while everyone is still happy, everyone is still using the system. We have a free version of our solution called OnQ vApp, the virtual appliance. It runs on a VMware host, allows you to protect a single server for an unlimited time. If you want to try before you buy, by all means, go check us out. Register to download that thing. It's very, very easy to get set up, and it was a very good way to get used to our technology.